News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Roof Rescue. With the reopening of Ellis Elementary School this morning, law enforcement were asking motorists to be alert to school zones and crossing guards near the newly remodeled facility. Logan City Police Lieutenant Brett Randall said a crossing guard will be at 400 West, 200 South during the morning between 7 and 8 a.m. and again in the afternoon between 1:30 and 2:30 p.m. A crossing guard will also be in front of the school to help students and parents safely cross the roads.
I want people to be aware of those crossing guards and be safe and make sure all the children get to and from school safely.
Now, in addition to crossing guard, school zones will be activated again where the speed limit is reduced to 20 miles per hour. Randall said it's been more than 2 years since the school closed for reconstruction, and many motorists are not used to seeing kids at those times during the mornings and afternoons. For the next several days, extra patrol officers will be out around the school.
To help educate the motoring public by slowing down and paying attention and yielding to those kids that are in those crosswalks and with those crossing guards.
For the past 2 years, Ellis Elementary students were bused to the old Hillcrest Elementary School during the reconstruction. KVNU News Time is 4:06. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear is the forecast. And the overnight low tonight will be down around the mid-20s, around 24 degrees. And then looking at sunny skies tomorrow, near 50. And then into the mid-50s, partly sunny on Wednesday. It's been pretty nice today. It's 45 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture. They have a big mattress selection featuring Therapeutic and Maloof. See the new Therapeutic Synthesis, a hybrid mattress with inner springs and copper-infused memory foam that keeps you cooler and more comfortable. Always a better buy at U&I. Downtown Logan, 28 West, 100 North.
If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, just wait until you hire an amateur.
Why the heck is the roof leaking? Larry, you said you got it fixed.
I thought it was fixed, Donna. Everything was fine until it started raining.
Larry, that's the point of fixing the roof, is so we can actually live here when it's stormy outside.
This is David with Roof Rescue. Our experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free roof inspection. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KVNU News Time is 4:08. Weekend figures from the Utah Department of Health indicate 433 new COVID infections on Friday, 336 Saturday, and 176 on Sunday for a total of 896. The weekend average of 299 cases a day is below Utah's current rolling 7-day average for positive tests, which is 438. Now, 49 cases were removed from the total count through data quality analysis. There have been 922,852 positive cases in Utah over the nearly 2 years of the pandemic. The state reported the COVID death toll has grown to 4,411, including 3 new deaths since Friday. Totals from the Bear River Health Department's new weekly report indicate 7 new COVID cases in Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties. The district's total case count grew to 51,266. About 58% of those living in Utah's 3 northern counties are fully vaccinated. At least 70% have had 1 dose. Almost 255,000 vaccine doses have been administered in the district. The number of Utahns hospitalized with COVID has fallen to 326, 46 fewer than on Friday, and 73 are in intensive care units, which is 28 fewer than were reported on Friday. Over the course of the pandemic, 33,214 Utahns have been hospitalized with the virus, including 1,985 in the Bear River Health District. And members of the Logan City Council will entertain public comment about short-term rental properties in the city's residential and commercial zones at their meeting on Tuesday. That public hearing, scheduled for 5:45 p.m., will help members of the municipal council decide whether to endorse a recommendation of the city's staff on neighborhood uses or that of the Logan Planning Commission. Logan City has few regulations addressing short-term rental properties that are commonly referred to as Airbnbs or VRBOs, according to Community Development Director Mike DeSimone. In a proposal to the Logan Planning Commission on January 27th, the city's staff recommended a conservative approach to regulating such vacation rentals by allowing them only in high-density and commercial zones of the city. Instead, the members of the Planning Commission recommended vacation rentals be allowed throughout the city, claiming that negative impacts would be minimal because demand for the short-term rentals was not excessive in this area. The March 1st public meeting on the subject is expected to help city council members gauge the reaction of the local residents to those alternative proposals. KBNU News Time is 4:11. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Covering the news that affects your life. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, and online at 610kvnu.com.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. President Biden will try to balance competing priorities on issues like inflation and his Supreme Court pick during his State of the Union address. Also, understandably, the White House isn't preparing a victory declaration over COVID during his remarks. And 4 ways to save money on gas by using your smartphone other than checking Gas Buddy. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
We are there in your community. Small business owners, mechanics, police officers, homemakers. And we are there serving our nation in the Air Force Reserve. When medical emergencies arise, we meet the challenge. In cybersecurity, protecting and defending in cyberspace. When natural disasters happen, we are there in space. As a strong part of the nation's defense, we are there in the community and we are there for our nation. We share a vision to make a difference, united and focused, taking pride in being there in service of our country. We are Reserve Citizen Airmen, and we are there with over 180 different jobs to serve your country. Air Force Reserve.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. President Biden will try to balance competing priorities on issues like inflation and his Supreme Court pick during his State of the Union address. Also, understandably, the White House isn't preparing a victory declaration over COVID during his remarks. And 4 ways to save money on gas by using your smartphone other than checking Gas Buddy. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cash Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have 2 guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVN News for the People. Beautiful Monday afternoon, February 28th, final day of the month. February just flew by, but just amazing out there. A little taste of spring, even though I'm still, fingers crossed, that we get a little more winter for snowpack alone.
Maybe on Friday.
I hope so. I do not want to deal with that severe drought all summer long again. So, yeah, fingers crossed that normally I'd be more than happy to switch winter off early and move into spring, one of my favorite times of the year. But for the snowpack, I'm willing to sacrifice March. So bring it on. Bring the snow. But today
just
I'm not
pile
complaining.
It on.
Not
pile
complaining
it on in the
at
mountains.
all. Yeah, just beautiful out there, too. I cracked my window on the way to the station today.
Isn't that nice? That's kind of a nice feeling.
It was, I think, first time in several months, or at least 2 months,
well,
that
it's
I've cracked my window.
My wife and I, a couple of weeks ago, we went down to near Zion National Park, stayed at a little, vacation rental, as they're called, Airbnb at Tokerville. It's nice when you get up in the morning there and you don't have to go scrape your windshield of your car. You just go out to your car and start it and drive off.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
It's it's not, well, and it's kind of fun to get a little taste early, to have a day like this when it's still February. By the way, last day of free fare February on UTA. If you want to quickly jaunt down and take a front runner trip, I can't believe I didn't get a chance to throughout the month of February.
Some friends of mine who you also know, I think they did that over the weekend. I think.
Well, I'm a big fan of the trains, but I just never, the time never was right. There is debate, or was debate, the bill is dead, on Capitol Hill just Friday about extending this to a year-round thing, basically making the UTA system, or parts of it at least, fare-free, like the Cache Valley Transit District or the Summit County's Transit District. But that bill stalled in a committee, was never actually heard in a committee. The committee just didn't bring it up, which is, in my mind, kind of a dirty way to kill legislation. At least have the debate, right? It is, unfortunately, dead, though. Also dead as of today. This actually happened last week, but it is final today when the sponsor said he was not going to take advantage of a legislative maneuver that's available to lawmakers to revive legislation that has been killed by committee. This bill, there's one negative part of this, and that is that one of our own here in Cache Valley voted to advance the bill. I find that unfortunate. Representative Mike Peterson voted in the committee to advance Representative Phil Lyman's bill that would have done away with universal mail-in voting here in Utah. Happy to report, though, that bill died, did not survive the committee hearing, and will not be revived by a legislative maneuver on the sponsor's part. I don't know what else to say about this. This was a bill built on crackpot evidence, anecdotal evidence, and the evidence presented at committee hearing was basically, well, I got a cousin who heard that his neighbor here in Carbon County received 2 ballots. I mean, mistakes do happen, but the point is the system catches them. Fraud does happen, or attempts at fraud does happen. The system catches them. That's the best you can expect from any election system, and it's happening here in Utah. This was a bill in search of a problem, and it was, unfortunately, I've harped on this many times, but it's again, more nationalization of the state legislature. You have these national political issues that are maybe great for fundraising for the national parties, or even candidates, eyeing up an election run or a primary or whatever it might be this year. And it might be great for filling their campaign coffers, but it's not great for eating up state legislative time when lawmakers are supposed to be dealing with the problems and the issues facing the state. And unfortunately, we're seeing this creep into state legislatures on a more frequent basis. And it's not just a red state thing. Obviously, you're not going to see a bill like Phil Lyman's in a blue state even sponsored. But in a red state, you might. And luckily, this committee saw the faultiness of the logic behind Lyman's argument and killed the bill. But this does happen in blue states, too. In blue states, you'll see bills that are just, the pie in the sky of whatever is popular on the left, just like this bill was for what's popular now on the right. And then it'll eat up hours and hours of time in the legislative session in Washington or Colorado or and so it's not just a red state thing. It's unfortunately a nationwide thing. Red and blue states, purple states, less so, but definitely red and blue states. And it's something to keep an eye on and push back against as a Utahn. Even if you happen to agree with whatever it is, if it's a bill, I mean, Lyman admitted that this bill wasn't solving a problem that existed here in Utah. He said that. To which the next question should be, well, then why are you running this bill? But everyone knew. He's either got political aspirations, and he's hoping this, elevates his profile, which I'm sure it did on the right. And then he's just a true believer, at which point, good luck to the area he represents if he's bought into the lack of evidence as evidence. Still, again, it happens on the left, and we should all fight this. It's unfortunate. We've seen this trajectory that started with the perpetual campaigns. Did you know this? There used to actually be a break between presidential campaigns. Yeah, they'd take a couple of years off. Now they don't. Now no one takes any time off. And then you see the polarization increase alongside that or because of that. And then that polarization doesn't stay in the federal races, elections for Congress and the president. It trickles down into these legislative races, into legislative business. And so instead of talking about something germane to Utah, we end up spending a lot of time on these other issues that are just a national political thing for the time being. And it's unfortunate. And again, it's not a red state thing. It's not a blue state thing. It's a uniquely American thing right now. And hopefully it goes away. But happy to report that bill sponsored by Representative Phil Lyman is dead. And again, I'm going to throw this out one more time because I am disappointed that one of Cache Valley's lawmakers actually supported advancing this bill out of committee to the House floor, further wasting everyone's time had that happened. And that is unfortunate. I like to say that Cache Valley lawmakers stay away from this kind of stuff, and traditionally they do. But apparently one of our representatives decided not to in this case. Hopefully the lesson is learned here. We'll see. Anyway, also dead, vouchers. The school voucher bill, which is being pushed and supported by a handful of lawmakers from the Utah County, South Salt Lake County area. It's been built on the argument that things have changed in the last 14 years or so. I was skeptical myself. Vouchers might be very useful to the Salt Lake County and Utah County school districts, but they're going to be very harmful to Cache County, Rich County, Box Elder County, Carbon County, Grand County, Garfield County, Kane County. Any rural county is going to be hurt by a school voucher system, and that's why they remain unpopular in Utah. Legislative leaders, though, had said again and again they felt that the winds had shifted on this and that they would be popular. I don't have a vote tally yet. We should by hour 2. But I do know, as of just a few minutes ago, the voucher bill failed, and it wasn't close, according to Ben Winslow of Fox 13, in a House vote. So coming up, I can't be irritated about this because it's actually the most interesting way that I've ever had a guest cancel on me. We'd reached out to a professor at Utah State University who happens to be of ethnic Russian descent, but grew up in eastern Ukraine and is now teaching at Utah State University in political science. And we had this lined up, and we heard from her team that they said, well, we did this lengthy interview with the Deseret News earlier today. That pretty much covers everything she has to say, and she's hesitant to become, a media darling in all of this. This is heartbreaking for her. She has family she's worried about. And so we're not going to do any more interviews. They're referring everyone to this lengthy Q&A they did with the Deseret News earlier today. And I have to respect that. Normally I'm irritated when a guest canceled, and I harp about it on air. I have to respect that. And so we'll do exactly that. We will defer to this Q&A that the Deseret News was able to do with Utah State University professor earlier today. We'll talk about that. Her perspective, again, as an ethnic Russian who grew up in eastern Ukraine, she says all of this is just heartbreaking to watch. We'll be back right after this.
Procrastination isn't a valid retirement strategy. If your saving for a retirement approach involves the phrase, "I'll get around to it someday," it's time to make someday into today. Edward Jones can help. Contact your local Edward Jones financial advisor to get started today. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Edward Jones office. When it comes to meeting your retirement goals, time can be on your side, and there's no better time than now. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Psst, Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You always had it in you.
She was screaming and crying. We didn't know how to help her.
To fight monsters and win.
Every day, thousands of kids like Gwen enter a Children's Miracle Network hospital, many fighting for their lives. It doesn't take much to lend support for kids at your local Children's Miracle Network hospital.
This isn't just an ear infection. This is our daughter. We didn't know how to help her.
For ways to help, visit us at helpkidstoday.org. helpkidstoday.org.
Tuesday edition, Clay and Buck Show. All the masks are suddenly gone, and we are finally starting to hold politicians accountable just in time for the State of the Union, Buck. We'll be setting the table for everything going on there.
Plus, the latest in Ukraine. Are the sanctions against the Russians actually beginning to crumble Putin's economy, and could that threaten his rule at home? We'll get into that coming up on the Clay and Buck Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Logan City inviting residents to take part in a discussion on vacation rentals. This is really going to be interesting, honestly. We'll talk about that in a bit. Before we get to that, I want to get to this. It's a perspective that I was hoping we'd be able to bring you here on the show in her own words, but I understand her reason for canceling again. Well, it sounds like she didn't. She's got some folks helping her out. She's a pretty popular person in Utah right now, and they decided that she was hesitant to sort of become a local celebrity on this issue, and I understand that. She said it's heartbreaking, or her team said it's heartbreaking for her. It's hard for her to talk about, and she's getting a lot of requests. So they're canceling on a lot of folks, and instead referring everyone back to the one interview they did do, the first interview they did today, which was with the Deseret News. It was a Q&A with Utah State University professor Anna O., and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Pechakina, I think is how you'd say it. And she is, the reason everyone wants to talk to her is, well, one, she's a professor of political science, and that's a great person to reach out to discuss the Russian invasion of Ukraine and everything we're seeing in the news right now in general. But she also happens to be of ethnically Russian and grew up in eastern Ukraine. And she currently is researching at USU how peace emerges out of war-torn areas, and why efforts to end a war succeed or fail. That's her area of research. She is, again, at Utah State University in the political science department, And she did this interview earlier today with the Deseret News, and they did it in a style of 5 questions. And so, of course, the first question was her reaction to the news that Russia had invaded Ukraine. When she got that news last week, she said her reaction was complete shock. She said, imagine someone told you that the United States had invaded Canada. Yes, the stronger side has the capacity to carry out an invasion like that, but given the economic and cultural ties between the two countries, you would dismiss such a forecast as inconceivable, even irrational. She said, most of my friends and family in both Ukraine and in Russia are completely stunned by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Many prominent figures inside Russia have described this as a fratricidal war, underscoring that this is a conflict against a country where many Russians have family ties. And we're seeing that play out a bit in the news. News of Russian soldiers hesitating or even, refusing to carry out certain actions in advance, saying before we even get there, we will not do this. But we're also seeing reports today of cluster bombing and even missiles fired into civilian areas where there are no known military targets. We're also seeing more and more today people coming forward, including former Ambassador Condoleezza, or Secretary of State, rather, Condoleezza Rice, and former U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, who happens to live in Helena, Montana, by the way, comes through Utah on a regular basis and speaks at Utah State usually when he does. Those two both making the rounds today, saying that they're starting to question Putin's mental health, that in recent weeks and months they've noticed a very different person than the one they got to know very well. One is ambassador, one is Secretary of State. Condoleezza Rice today told MSNBC that she believed that this was the natural trajectory of dictators. They spend so much time isolated and alone that eventually they stop using logic and reason, and they can't be reasoned with, and it's very detrimental to their own mental health. McFaul, in an interview on Fox and again on CNN just today, said that his experience for years as Obama's ambassador to Russia with Putin, he said the person he sees today is unrecognizable to him. He says he's angry and he's in many ways not making sense. And he worries if this has been a rapid decline due to a health issue or even just a mental health issue. So this USU professor, Anna O., again, I think you'd pronounce it Petchkina, is ethnically Russian but grew up in eastern Ukraine. She said that's also what's being discussed in Russia right now, from what she's hearing from family and friends there. She said that, for years, obviously, Putin has stressed again that he personally doesn't view Ukraine as a sovereign nation, as a sovereign state, and never has. And but she says Russia's recent violent and aggressive actions against Ukraine have not occurred previously, not occurred regularly. She said during Putin's 22-year rule, because it would be Russia against Russia in the populace's mind. So she said 2 spells of aggression stand out. In 2014 to 15, Russia annexed Crimea and instigated the Donbas War that was geographically contained to those eastern outreaches or provinces of Ukraine. She said then the current spell, 2021-2022, as Putin has made a massive display of force along all of Ukraine's borders that he can. And then, of course, this full-scale invasion, which started February 24th. She said, though, that there are some reasons, this escalated when it did, in Putin's mind, why he might feel justified. And she lists those out in her interview with the Deseret News. She said, that, I would summarize it as this: the popularity of Ukraine's people and their president, Zelensky, and they're standing up to Russia several times over the last few years, including Zelensky shutting down 3 pro-Russia TV propaganda news channels in the Ukraine. In Ukraine, he has that ability as president, and he shut them down, saying they're nothing but propaganda, and then also closed the pro-Russian information side of other news outlets as well to keep the propaganda out. But also, Zelensky has made his entire administration throughout one of fighting corruption, which, of course, isn't popular with the corrupt oligarchs of Russia, where corruption is very lucrative for them. So that could also be part of this. But she says she believes that Putin has made several miscalculations. She told the Deseret News in her interview earlier today that one of the biggest miscalculations was how Germany would react to this. Putin probably assumed that after Germany's elections in September 2021 led to the Christian Democratic Union was basically tossed out of power for the most part. They don't have a governing coalition. And this likely convinced Putin that Germany would not join sanctions against Russia to a certain extent. They would join some of the initial sanctions and then halt there. So he was probably surprised when over the weekend German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said they were actually going to go all the way with the sanctions, including sanctioning the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which is a huge blow to the Russian economy. So she said in her mind, and from what she's hearing from others in Russia and the Ukraine, not a lot of folks think that Putin is thinking right now. And everyone seems surprised by the invasion itself and some of the actions carried out by the Russian military since the invasion began. That's just a touch of this. It was a lengthy Q&A that the Deseret News, and again, after doing the interview, the professor decided it was probably not comfortable for her to keep doing these after this initial one, so they are referring everyone back to this interview instead of doing other scheduled interviews, including the one we had scheduled today. And again, you know, Bill, I can understand.
Yeah, well, she's like you said, she's traumatized. She has family back there. She's probably thinks about them, worries about them day and night.
Sure. And so doing that first interview, I can understand finding it a bit harder to talk about than you thought it was going to be. And so, but that interview was conducted earlier today by the Deseret News, and they have published it on their website. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. It's titled 5 Questions for a USU Professor Who is Ethnic Russian and Grew Up in Eastern Ukraine. Link on the Facebook page, and we'll be back with more of For the People after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:37, and the news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. Utah's governor has signed an executive order requiring the Utah Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control to immediately remove all Russian-produced and Russian-branded products from its shelves. The order announced Saturday by Governor Cox was in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and mirrors moves by governors of other states. Cox said in a statement announcing the executive order, quote, Utah stands in solidarity with Ukraine and will not support Russian enterprises, no matter how small the exchange, end of quote. The Idaho National Laboratory and the University of Utah have announced a 5-year agreement on research collaborations between students, faculty, and laboratory researchers. Officials say the agreement announced last Wednesday in Salt Lake City formalizes what had been individual agreements. Those will be replaced with a broad institutional memorandum that encourages greater collaborations, visits by research scholars, seminars, workshops, and conferences. Idaho National Laboratory Director John Wagner says the partnership will help advance innovative science and technology. University of Utah President Taylor Randall says the lab's work is critical to the nation and the school stands ready to support that work. And lawmakers in the Idaho House have approved exempting some government cybersecurity records from public disclosure in a measure backers say is needed to thwart terrorist attacks. The House voted 48-20 today to approve the bill that would exempt disclosing the nature, location, and function of cybersecurity devices, systems, or programs used by a government entity. Republican Representative Dustin Manwaring says exempting those records from Idaho's Public Records Act is needed because nation states are attacking government systems, and they could use public records to aid in those attacks. Only Republican lawmakers oppose the bill, some citing their concerns it could allow unfettered spying on citizens. KVNU News Time is 4:40.
Does your home have that stuffy winter smell? John at the Duct Hunter says it could be your air ducts holding on to dust and other surprises. To get rid of that smell, give John a call at the Duct Hunter. He'll thoroughly clean each duct in every room. Not with a shop vac, but with forced air and a vacuum that'll make your mom proud. He can even run a camera through your vents to see what's going on. For a free consultation, call the Duct Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear, low near 15, sunny around 40 tomorrow, and then partly cloudy, upper 40s, close to 50 degrees on Wednesday. We did make it to 46 today. Right now it's 43 at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Cache Valley's most trusted name in hearing aid technology. Call 753-HEAR. That's 753-HEAR. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Rochelle Hanks bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Tron Arnold and Edward Jones for Monday, February 28th. Over the weekend, fighting in Ukraine seemed to intensify as Russia continues its march towards key Ukrainian cities. However, strong resistance from the Ukrainian military and militia groups have considerably slowed the Russian advance, and Ukraine remains in control of Kyiv, the capital. Vladimir Putin also ordered Russia's nuclear capabilities on high alert, raising tensions between Russia and NATO. The Russian central bank raised its overnight interest rate to 20%, up from 9.5% in an attempt to stabilize the value of the ruble. We think market volatility will persist over this elevated uncertainty. However, the S&P 500 approaching the average non-recessionary pullback and valuations returning to their 5-year historical average. We don't think now is the time to abandon long-term strategies. Because the foundation of the economy remains solid, in our view, we recommend remaining opportunistic and consider adding quality investments at attractive prices while maintaining realistic expectations for returns and volatility. Consider rebalancing strategies and dollar-cost averaging to take advantage of the wide price swings. A focus on balance and diversification can potentially better help weather short-term dips, whether over the long term, but they are nearly impossible to avoid. U.S. equities closed lower today. The Dow closed down 166 points at 33,893, and the NASDAQ closed up 57 points at 13,751. The S&P closed down 11 points at 4,374, and in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 1.83% lower. In stocks of local interest, Thermo Fisher is down $5.83 to $5.44. Home Depot is down 82 cents to $315.83. Autoliv is down $4 to $88.01. Lowe's is up $1.88 to $2.21. Walmart is down $1.22 to $135.16. Nucor is up $1.57 to $131.62. Coca-Cola is down 61 cents to $62.24. Kroger is up 34 cents to $46.80. General Electric is down 86 cents to $95.51. And R.R. Donnelley & Sons is unchanged. In commodity markets, the price of crude oil was up $4.34 to $95.93, and the spot price of gold was up $24.20 to $1,911.80. This has been today's financial market report brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Tron Arnold, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 1202 South Highway 9 in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact any of our 7 Edward Jones offices in Logan, Providence, and Smithfield. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
This year, let's do Ski-Doo all winter, no matter the weather, because you've got to love that Ski-Doo feeling. So start off the season with the ultimate winter fun machine and get into gear to discover our state's beautiful landscapes. Take your whole family on an adventure filled with fun through marked trails and snow-covered mountains. Come meet the Ski-Doo experts and learn about the current promotions at Frank May Ski-Doo in Honeyville. Rest assured you'll get a fair deal. Frank May Ski-Doo is a 2-time gold medalist in the 2021 Best of Northern Utah contest.
Hey there, I'm Lance Bass, and this is CHIP. And for more than 100 years, American Humane has been protecting animals in times of crisis. And if you're like me, your pet means the world to you, and you want to keep them safe if disaster strikes. American Humane's first responders are always prepared to rescue animals in danger, but you can also help. To learn more about disaster planning and keeping your animals safe, please visit AmericanHumane.org.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. President Biden will try to balance competing priorities on issues like inflation and his Supreme Court pick during his State of the Union address. Also, understandably, the White House isn't preparing a victory declaration over COVID during his remarks. And 4 ways to save money on gas by using your smartphone other than checking Gas Buddy. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Curious how our listeners feel about this, and you'll have a chance, if you're a Logan resident, to weigh in with the city tomorrow night. 753-5868. How do you feel about Logan City mulling a change to policy regarding what they call in ordinance vacation rentals? But they're talking about Airbnb, VRBO, things like that. It's something that you can, well, I guess it really doesn't matter that you can reserve it through an app, but that's traditionally how they work. But that's not key to their definition. The key to their definition is something that's reserved maybe for a period of time a bit longer than the average hotel stay, but less than 30 days. And that's why they use the phrase vacation rental, because oftentimes their Airbnbs are reserved for 4 days to 7 days. In fact, I think Airbnb says their average is 4 to 7 days.
And now Airbnb, because my wife has made arrangements through them, and we've stayed in quite a few. Now that's a brand name, right?
Yeah, that's
like
an actual
Xerox.
company. Yeah. But everyone knows them. Since Airbnb was first, everyone knows them as when you hear someone say an Airbnb, they might have used some other service to actually reserve the rental.
Yeah,
but they'll still call it an Airbnb. Yeah, it's like the jacuzzi. Everyone thinks a jacuzzi is just a hot tub, and it was actually a brand name.
Yeah.
But they were the first, so everyone thought jacuzzi.
Could you Xerox that? Or could
Xerox.
You Google that?
Yeah, Google becomes an internet search, even though that's probably still
though you
true
might be
of
using
Google.
Yahoo or something. I don't know.
I think Google kind of won that war, so they probably deserve it. Xerox probably deserved it. I don't know if Airbnb deserves it. They've got a lot of competition, but they were first, and this was a brand new thing, and they exist everywhere. But they're more common in, you mentioned traveling down to Zion a couple weekends ago to trek the canyon there a bit, and there's a lot of them down there.
Yeah.
Here in Cache Valley, not so much. I
have some friends that have started one in North Logan.
Sure.
And apparently they've had, 3 or 4 bookings already?
There's a few.
Out well.
There's a few around. In fact, there's one up in Richmond that I'm tempted. Even though that's like, a 25-minute drive, 20-minute drive, even in bad traffic. I'm still tempted to have a little staycation in Richmond because this Airbnb looks that cool. So an Airbnbs or these vacation rentals can be, you can rent a full house. You can rent an attached apartment within a house, like someone's basement, but it has its own entrance. There are occasionally ones where you're actually renting. I saw this during the film festival back when it was happening in person before the pandemic. People would rent a room in their house through Airbnb or a similar service. But traditionally, it's a vacation thing. You're renting a house, you're renting
it's
an
kind of
apartment.
like a real homey motel.
Yeah.
That has a nice touch to it.
And what's cool is they get very creative. There's one in Moab that is literally an old observation outpost. And they got permission somehow from the Park Service to actually do this because it happened to be on private land. They bought the land and they turned this into a vacation rental. It's something you can find on Airbnb actually, and it's up on this cliff. It's kind of remote, but not that remote. I don't know. It's just really cool. And you, Bill, you stayed in one that was a former storefront, a historic storefront. It had been converted
it had been
a studio
station,
apartment.
It had been a gas station. It had been a Greyhound bus terminal in
It's very cool.
Tokerville there.
That's
but it was very nice. I mean, it was modest. One big room,
like a big studio,
and a little microwave, and a very nice big bathroom.
Sure.
And I think the reason we rented that is because my wife saw the picture of the bathtub, and she likes to soak in the tub. The bathtub was very nice, and a huge walk-in shower just right behind that.
It's very cool, and they get very creative on these. And so all that is a setup to what's happening tomorrow night. Logan City Council is inviting public comment on a change to these short-term rental properties. So, again, this is something that someone's renting, basically, similar. I don't know when we stopped doing this. People used to say rent a hotel room. Because it fits. It's the proper word.
Yeah, you rent a car, right?
Yeah, but we stopped saying that. We started saying things like get and reserve and things like that, a hotel room. But it's just like that, but maybe through an app rather than a traditional vacation booking site or something like that. And then they can be a bit extended. Some people will reserve through Airbnb. You can reserve for a summer, for example. Some homes in Montana. I thought about that, too. Wondering if I can do the radio show from there. I'm sure I could. But
Wi-Fi, you can.
We can do it. Logan City is considering a change. But what's interesting about this, the proposal has been made to the Planning Commission. It was made back in January. The city's staff recommended a change to vacation rental regulations in Logan that would make vacation rentals more available. As it stands right now, there are not many, but a few regulations addressing short-term rental properties. Again, thinking of these Airbnbs, VRBO, things like that. But they, in Logan, and many cities do this, they are the policy restricts them to certain areas, commercial or areas that are already high density. And the idea behind that is to stop your neighbor so you live in a quiet suburb and your neighbor decides, I'm turning my basement into an Airbnb. And all of a sudden you've got a constant stream of tourist traffic coming through your neighborhood, scaring the kids. They're having loud parties, coming home from the bars drunk because they're not from Utah. And you can see how that could be a problem just because your neighbor decided to turn their basement into an Airbnb. So traditionally, cities have had certain regulations like that. Like you can't set up a vacation rental in your home if you live in certain areas. But Logan City is considering changing that. Now, I checked into this. Not every city in the valley has those restrictions. There are some cities that have few, if any, restrictions on something like a vacation rental. The state has some. There are certain things you have to meet to legally rent, even through a third-party app like Airbnb or VRBO. For example, there have to be. I mean, this is common sense. There has to be a bathroom. You can't you can't dig a hole next to your tough shed, hang up some nice flowers.
Put an outhouse out in the backyard.
Yeah, there has to be, certain amenities are required, just like they would be for anything called a hotel. So the state has some requirements that this wouldn't change. But what Logan City is considering changing is, basically lifting some of those restrictions. The proposal was made. Members of the Planning Commission recommended vacation rentals be allowed throughout the city because they said negative impacts would be minimal because demand for short-term rentals is not very excessive here. Not like it is down around Zion Canyon or in Moab or even in parts of Salt Lake City. So they're saying that any negative impact would be minimal or non-existent because there aren't very many short-term rentals here at all. Tomorrow night, March 1st, the Logan City Council is seeking public feedback on this. So if you're for it or against it, show up tomorrow night. The public hearing is scheduled to start at 5:45 p.m. as part of that regular city council meeting that starts at 5. So around 5:45, the public hearing on this proposed change to Logan City's ordinances regarding vacation rentals that would, if approved by the council, lift the restrictions, meaning you could start an Airbnb in your backyard or your basement anywhere in the city. Not currently allowed, but it would be after this change. What do you think? 753-5868. Be sure to show up for the public hearing, but join us now and share your thoughts. We'll be back right after this.
MLS 1817019.
From our Freedom Loan that covers 100% of your closing costs to our $1,000 lowest rate guarantee. As Utah's premier mortgage broker, LendRight Mortgage shops the top lenders in the country to find you the absolute lowest rate and fees. We often beat other lenders' rates by 1/4 to 0.5%. That means a lower mortgage payment for you, which can save you tens of thousands over the life of your loan. Compare us to any lender. If we can't save you a minimum of $1,000, we'll give you $1,000. Nobody does what LendRight Mortgage does. Nobody. See our rates and get a free quote on your purchase or refinance. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com. Crushing other lenders is our specialty. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com.
Dr. Josh Red, chiropractic physician, explains how Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
If you have low thyroid and you're taking thyroid medication, the biggest question you should ask yourself is what's causing my low thyroid specifically? If you don't know the answer to that question, it's important to call us. At Red River, we identified triggers that will cause the low thyroid to begin with. One of the most common causes of low thyroid is a disease called Hashimoto's disease. This is an autoimmune disease that is a lot more complicated than just a primary thyroid issue. This is why people will be on thyroid hormone but still feel little to no improvement because nothing's being done to address the bigger, more complicated problem, which is Hashimoto's. If you have low thyroid or you have an autoimmune disease and you're on medication and still don't feel well, call Red River.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Just a quick note. I have a couple of messages along this front. But the first, this is again for Logan residents. With reopening of Ellis Elementary School, law enforcement asking everyone to be conscious of and respect those school zones, crossing guards near this newly remodeled facility. It's been a while is the reason for this. The crossing guard there at 4th West and 200 North in the morning between 7 and 8 a.m. and again in the afternoon between 1:30 and 2:30. And then they will also be in front of the school helping students and parents safely cross the roads and the parking area there. But it's been a while as the school's been remodeled. They're concerned that people have maybe gotten used to Ellis Elementary not being in operation.
Well, and if somebody had moved here within the last 2 years,
sure,
like and you're driving along 200 North,
yeah,
you're not used to that being a school zone or seeing those flashing
lights.
Yellow lights.
Yeah. So, more than 2 years since the school closed for reconstruction. And, as Bill said, someone who's new or someone who's just gotten used to the school being closed over the last couple of years, they're very concerned that people are going to blow through this school zone. And I got to say, Bill, it's one of the, I've seen this so many times. I've seen some weird things this school year. And I don't know if it's right up there with the Highway Patrol saying they've written more 100-mile-an-hour and over citations the last year than ever before. I don't know what's going on out there, but just a few weeks ago, I watched, and the bus driver had to honk and lean. She had to lean out the window and shout at this driver. Stop sign was out. Kids were in the road. All the other cars were stopped. And here comes this Yahoo in a gigantic truck, and he's just going to weave through the cars, stopped in the middle of the road, and around the bus. I don't know what he was thinking, and then it was like a light bulb went on. When the bus driver honked, I think he finally realized, oh, wow, I'm being an idiot. And he just stopped. Diagonally in the road, just stopped. Luckily, he stopped, because the kids were coming around.
Yeah, how could you not see that? I
oh, man. And I had a fine driver tailgate me through a school zone the other day. I was going, I think I was going 21 in the 20-mile-an-hour zone.
So suddenly you cut down to about 10.
I did. Right? I dropped way down. Yeah. What kind of a driver are you? I said to myself as I calmly dropped down to 7. No, I just dropped down to 15. But still, be careful out there. You know, I can't imagine being responsible for the outcome of blowing through a school zone or past a stop bus because you're not paying attention or you're just too important to stop. I don't know. But nobody wants to live with that. Hour 2 of today's show, a look at the